Where is the weirdest place you've ever fallen asleep? On a tractor, while plowing a field. I was doing night shifts during the summer and decided to get some extra hours in during the day, so I was tired when doing my actual shift. I switched on the tractor's GPS and set it to give me a signal 50 meters before the field ended to wake me up to turn around. The fields were about 1200 meters long, so I'd get about 10 minutes of sleep before having to turn around again. During a job interview, he actually had to shake me awake. Weirder yet, I still got the job. When I was a kid, like 5 or 6, there was a tree in the front yard I really liked climbing. There was a branch perfectly shaped for little me to lie down on. Early one morning, I woke up and decided to take my sleeping bag up the tree and went back to sleep. In college, I took a cognitive neuroscience course that involved designed experiments to be carried out in an MRI and how to analyze the brain images afterwards. As part of the course, we all carried out our studies, and I volunteered to be a participant for a few. When I went to get in the MRI, the tech said I couldn't wear my sweatshirt and due to the metal near the aglets, so she got me a blanket to keep warm. And to keep my head propped at the right angle, they gave me a stack of pillows. I definitely unintentionally fucked with someone's data by falling asleep mid-study. I fell asleep one time waiting before a medical procedure. They had to wake me up so that I could sign paperwork permitting them to put me to sleep. Oh, the irony. At the dentist in the middle of drilling without any anesthesia, woke up to dentist trying to tell me to open my mouth more. Edit for those wondering why no anesthesia. I have very high pain tolerance and I dislike how local anesthesia feels. Wiz Khalifa concert. Everyone was so high, I fell asleep for a few minutes standing up, and the crowd was so thick I didn't even fall over. One night, for no particular reason, I was feeling extremely anxious. My mother-in-law offered me a Xanax. It was about 7 PM and a few days before Christmas. We were at her house doing the family thing. I took the Xanax, and after about 15 minutes started feeling relatively calm. Not really thinking about it, I grabbed a beer from my father-in-law, who didn't know I'd taken a Xanax. Finished it, decided to have one more. I went outside to smoke, and was lying across the hood of my car. In retrospect, I was already pretty out of it. I don't normally lay on cars. Anyway, I finished smoking, and turned on my iPad and just started doodling while lying back, kinda propped up by the windshield. That's all I remember. The next thing I knew, it was after midnight. My iPad was lying in the driveway, shattered, and my mother-in-law and wife were shaking me awake in a total panic. Apparently I straight passed out mid-sketch and dropped my iPad and just sat there in their front yard, fully unconscious, laying across my car. Don't drink if you take Xanax, kids. I went to a party and slept in the train on the way back home, but my friend constantly was waking me up. I would be mad if he did that. So when the train stopped at the last station, he left without me, drunk, and I did not really know him. So this nice cute lady waked me up when the train was empty. I thought it was my friend, so I yelled something mad, and she walked away. 5 seconds later I realized it wasn't my friend, and I felt so bad. I once fell asleep standing up. During high school I had the weirdest relationship with sleep, and ended up spending more time in class asleep than awake. One day, after not having slept for a few nights in a row, I just passed out during standing up. We were waiting for instructions. I blinked, and suddenly everyone was out in the field doing stuff, and I was alone. Teacher seen me come to shortly after, and informs me that class is over in a few minutes, and to just go ahead and get changed again. Reportedly I snored. I usually didn't in the classroom. Edit because I have another one. One time I fell asleep on the sidewalk outside my dentist's office. I had gotten up way earlier than I had needed to. I had to bus there, had 3 hours to kill, and not much money to get breakfast or something. So I went and sat down on some concrete fixtures that made a decent improvised seat, got annoyed at myself for forgetting to charge my phone, and started changing my seated position frequently before eventually dozing off laying down. Thankfully I awoke, but it was to a siren. I was wondering what was going on when a firefighter started talking to me. Somebody thought I was a body or a passed out homeless person. Whoops. Made it to my dentist on time, and resolved to never be that early to an appointment ever again. Not weird but dangerous. When I was still in high school I used to work at Starbucks and would open at 4 am, so I'd have to get up around 3 am to drive there. Well, there were some days where I didn't get to bed on time, so while driving, I'd close my eyes and count to 3 and then open and correct my driving if I had veered off my lane, and repeat. My logic was, no way could I veer off that bad in 3 seconds. Mind you, that early there really isn't anyone on the road. Well, there was one time I counted to 3 and my eyes would just not open until it was almost too late. Nothing bad happened, but I pulled over, called work and said I'd be 5 minutes late. Took a nap on the side of the highway and went to work. TLDR, due to opening shift at Starbucks, I counted myself to sleep while driving. I volunteered at the local firehouse when I was a teen/early 20s. We got a call one night on the interstate, which was a 20-minute drive. Sick me decided to close my eyes thinking I would wake up when the siren stopped. I woke up when the truck pulled back in the station and turned off with everyone laughing at me. On film sets. First time we were sat in a comfy auditorium for hours on end, fake clapping and laughing. One after another someone would doze off, and if an AD noticed they'd wake us up, unless the person was quiet enough and the others were making enough noise. During a particular slow turnover I dozed off, and during this period of my life I was a bit phlegmy, so I didn't realize my head had rocked back, and I was snoring loud. Eventually when I came to, the crew were still doing adjustments. I remember this girl's face as she looked up at me with the most appalled look on her face. I must have been snoring badly. Second time this happened, it was very unexpected. I was playing a refugee in a tent with other extras. The director had to place me further away from the others and turn me away from the camera because of how I looked. I lay there awake, but pretending to be unconscious for the first and second take. I then wake after who knows how long to clapping and an AD praising us, and that's a wrap, guys. My friend on set, another extra, came up to me to say that I didn't move an inch, even when he tried to tell me jokes. We had just clicked on set and were having a lot of fun that day. I had to ask him how long has it been since we started rolling, and find out that it's been a good 3 to 4 hours. Easiest paycheck I have or will make in my life. I fell asleep during my wedding. Pretty much the moment we sat down waiting to do all vows and wrap up the ceremony part of the wedding, I fell asleep multiple times while sitting there. Now it's not because I don't respect my wife. She pretty much died laughing when we went to eat and talk to people. She always thinks that shit is funny. I have various illnesses, physical and mental. I was on meds at the time. I worked roofing with my fill, and I'm not a morning person at all. I've always had the graveyard schedule since I was a child. I've never been able to wake up in the morning without feeling sick. It was a Christian and Mexican wedding, as in everything is in Spanish besides my vows. I also don't speak Spanish. I can only understand it sometimes. The fucking ceremony was so long. It was basically them talking about the Bible for a good hour or so. So I dozed off multiple times for a while at each time. I didn't feel bad at all. My wife didn't even want to do a church wedding because we both dislike religion and church a lot. We only did it because her dad said that he'd only pay for it. He was the one who insisted we get married since we live with him, but he said he'd give us $5,000 for our honeymoon, which he never did. To this day I don't remember the ceremony at all besides our vows. Mayo. I fell asleep while marching to school. I was enlisted in the Air Force, and once you graduate boot camp, you go to your school to learn about your job. Well, I stayed up all night studying for a test, and I was so tired that I fell asleep while marching to the schoolhouse. And I somehow managed to stay in a straight line, keep pace, and stay in step with everyone. My client's house in his room while standing up with a roll of TP in my hands. I woke up really confused. To clarify, I'm a personal assistant, and the series of events leading up to that moment was I'd spent about 2 weeks working at a hospital as an assistant and also personal assistant at an older man's home. My schedule was back to back, and I only slept about an hour to 2 hours at my house, so I was exhausted and ended up falling asleep standing up waiting for my client to tell me how he was feeling. Had to wait for him to get a feel for the equipment. The toilet paper is a mystery, though I honestly don't remember when I picked it up or why. I was an hour early for my appointment in London, and there was a nice park outside the building. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I sat in the long soft grass, ate my lunch and read my book. I finished my book, and I still had 45 minutes or so to wait. I also have chronic fatigue and no sense, so I laid down and slept. Lovely nap. 10/10 would recommend.